No, it's not bad, and I think largely the reason that's done is to stem the recent tide of association that's been going on, in which it's being assumed Ubuntu is the end-all representation of what Linux is capable of. Because that's starting, in my opinion, to become a problem, and I'm not the only one that feels that way. And I think that's why there's some people adamantly doing that, because they just like, take a look at Mint, please. That's
what I was saying is that just basically, I don't see Arch doing that or Fedora doing that. What I'm mainly saying, even though I like Mint, those are the main people I see trying to convert other users. I don't know. Like, everyone says that their distro is awesome and that you should try it, but they're not really actively over there every time interjecting. I do see some Mint users doing that. I don't know if you guys see this, but I do.
It depends on the form. I find it tends to be largely linked to Ubuntu forms.
Well, just well, if Ubuntu isn't mentioned, then it's not really. But anywhere that Ubuntu is mentioned, which is a lot, including, wherever it's Computer World or wherever I'm reading. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I'm mainly seeing. Other distros, I would largely agree with you that they do think that they're the best and that you should try it, but they're not going out trying to convert another distro. I would say that is one thing about Mint, that they do try to convert Ubuntu users.
Well, I'd argue I've done that more than once with PC-LAN. I've like coded it as this. I like it. I think it's a good end user distro. It's like if
you ask me if there's a person using Ubuntu, I would say he tried Mint if he was having trouble, or even if he wasn't.
Well, no, that's the thing, and I think that's where I don't think it's so much trying to convert people. I think the honest assessment behind those people is they don't want, if Ubuntu is giving them a sour taste, they don't want them to get a sour taste for Linux as a whole.
Right.
They want them to try something else that will go, okay, maybe it's just the flavor I tried. I mean, if the first flavor of ice cream you tried was, let me try and think, bubblegum sushi. It's like, some people might like it, but other people would get a face like Jordan just got, and they'd go, I don't like ice cream. No, I don't like ice cream.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
From now on.
Exactly. It's like
that does sound familiar. Except traditionally, it's my wireless card didn't work, so Linux sucks.
Yeah. But it's like, and those are problems that are common to purist distros like Ubuntu, or when somebody's trying to use a server distro as an end-user distro, or other things like that. It's like, you're not going to have a good experience in that situation. You're just not. And that's the thing. And these are the problems, honestly, that paid software should be focusing on. The things paid software should be focusing on in Linux is not recreating services that already exist and are done rather well by free things in the open source community. It should be services that, either for legal reasons or for proprietary reasons or for other reasons like that, open source can't fix this problem, but it is a problem Linux would benefit from having fixed. And you should focus on taking care of the legal soup and putting together an easy package for that and fixing those things. That's why
there could be like a crossover some company can make, sort of, for hardware, I suppose. Like drivers.
Well, there's already some things like that. And, people have told me there's legal issues with this. I actually don't understand what the legal issues are with this, to be quite honest. Things like the what is it, NDS wrappers or whatever, which is one of the best ways I know to get unsupported Wi-Fi cards to work and other things like that.
What is NDS wrapper? That gets Windows drivers to work?
Yeah, basically it will allow Linux to use the Windows driver if there's just no other way to do it.
I've never figured out how to get that working, actually.
it helps if your distro includes it.
I was doing it on Puppy.
Yeah, it is a little difficult to install. It's
But that's what I'm gonna be waiting for Jordan's installing from source thing, because I need to find that out. Alright, let's continue.
Anyway, I mean, what do you think on that, Jordan? I mean, can you think of any other like niches that paid software should really solve aside from enterprise type stuff?
Enterprise is really the biggest market there, but
yeah, it's like
honestly, I've seen a lot of people saying, as an example, if there's a guy in my IRC channel all the time who is always saying, if Ubuntu made their every 2-year release, their long-term support release, a paid release that came with codecs and it came with all of this other stuff,
it would kill Ubuntu.
Especially if you kept it. Well, if you kept it at a decently low price, if you kept it at $10 or $20, something reasonable, but actually bundled the codecs and Flash and Java and all those things that these perfect distros come with, that they'd probably make a killing at it. Because if you can pay that versus having to buy Windows or having to bridge legality by using all of this proprietary software. I mean, you're not exactly, but a lot of codecs that you're really not supposed to use if you're in the States, I know.
I'm going to agree with the show that sucks. I think that might kill it.
Well, no, because here's what would happen. If that happened,
if you made it an option instead of
if you made it an option and the people who want to support Ubuntu would buy it. But the only way I would really see that model taking off to make Ubuntu money would be if they did that as some sort of partnership with an OEM, in which they had an OEM selling an Ubuntu system, and that was like a $10 option for that computer. Then I would see that working, and that it's the OEM, not Ubuntu, doing it. There's a separation. There's some, and this is a service the person selling the system is doing to provide
that
it.
makes sense.
It's not.
But I don't know about selling Ubuntu, but if they were to sell something for like $20, and it would have the Ubuntu CD plus a printed out manual plus guides.
Yeah, it'd have to have more than just the codecs.
I can see working.
Yeah, it'd have to be more than just the codecs, but the codecs would be one of the things in this bundle chest they throw in.
Well,
basically,
we would have to just be all pre-bundled on the disk, and
right.
That can be done.
Well, basically, this is our tweaked version of Ubuntu for this computer, and we've done all the hard work for you. You can do it yourself, or you can give us $20 to have done it for you. Anyone who's ever set up an Ubuntu distro would go, you know what, $20, take it. It's like a lot of people would. Uber geeks wouldn't, but a lot of people would, especially if they're getting this computer for somebody else to help introduce them to Linux. But if Ubuntu themselves try and do that, what I instantly see happening is one of two things. Either the whole community falls apart, bails ship to other distros that aren't doing that, or there's a pack written for Ubuntu almost instantly that addresses the problem. And I think there already is a pack like this in Ubuntu that's like a one-click codex or something.
Ubuntu does most of that, but it's not a one-click. I'd say there's probably something in Ubuntu tweak that does it, though.
Okay.
Well, there's something that'll install all those codecs called Ubuntu Restricted Extras. It's in the repository.
Yes.
Yeah.
That gets some of them. It doesn't get everything. I
It's
only know that
Java
because doing Kane Live stuff, there's a lot of stuff they haven't caught.
Okay.
But I think that a better plan for Ubuntu to make money rather than selling the distro itself is really pushing forward with, you know, Ubuntu One and the Ubuntu One Music Store, and starting to have kind of apps.
Ubuntu, the Apple of Linux.
Exactly, but I think that's what'll make them money rather than selling the distro itself. I think that's a better idea.
I think the long-term model is, I think they're planning to start putting paid software in the Ubuntu Software Center. I just think it hasn't happened yet.
They have stated it. They were supposed to do it in 10.04, starting having paid software, but they said they will. They will start having it. I mean, if you look at it, if you look at the Ubuntu Software Center, I don't know if it still has it now, but when I was using the betas, next to whatever software you picked, it would say price next to it. And you know, my friend pointed out that's kind of weird. But it doesn't say it now, but it used to say price. And for everything it just said $0, $0.0. But everything had a price next to it. So that pretty much says that they're ready to start having software on there, which will cost a little bit. And one account, and it'll be the
if they
same
try
kind
that
of
to
thing with
Ubuntu
your
1, they
user
should very easily
Yeah.
switch that.
Well, no, and
That'd
that.
be a good idea.
Well, no, and I think stuff like that is why Microsoft's looking at building in an app thing into what's supposedly going to be Windows 8 and yada yada and so forth. And this is one way in which both Linux and Apple are miles ahead of Microsoft in that it's already all there. They've already laid the infrastructure. They've built it in that way, and Linux is not as out of the running really as people want to make it out. Right now, Linux has a ridiculously small user group. But there's enough companies that are realizing.
I wouldn't say ridiculously small. I mean, it's about 1%, but 1% is pretty darn big.
Well, it's officially between 1 and 3%, depending on which metric you look at. However, you need to keep in mind that a lot of Linux stuff, especially end user, doesn't get counted. Some estimates, some unofficial estimates, have put the marketplace size and the end user for Linux just shy of the current Mac OS X marketplace size because of all the undocumented and dual boot systems and everything else. So, like, this user base is a lot larger than we give it credit for, and it's the geek calling up and going, "When the hell are you going to support Linux?" isn't the oddball anymore. It's becoming more and more, especially in a lot of niche softwares, their core user base because of other things going on. I'm not saying it's not big enough yet that you're going to convince Adobe and Microsoft Office and other things like that to run natively in Linux, but there's a lot of niche markets like gaming. There's a reason Steam's available on Linux, and when stuff like that starts to happen, there's a little powder keg. I don't think people have an appreciation that people need to start addressing into their business models. How do I sell my product to Linux users? Because if they ignore that too much longer, they're going to have a lot of catching up to do in about 5-10 years.
You know, I think that one of the things that might, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if any of you guys know more about this stuff, but Android uses the Linux kernel. And Android is getting very, very popular, and as software starts getting made for Android, if it's made, modular, and just the UI is the different part, that software could be pretty easily ported to Linux with a different UI. So as stuff that uses Linux gets popular, software can be made for that, and then maybe, Android doesn't perfectly, it is a fork, so it will take a little bit to port, but it can be ported differently, and as long as it's, modular and just has the UI, it can be changed rather easily. So that could help.
I'm not sure that's as easy as you're saying, and a lot of the apps you would have on Android, I'm not sure you'd necessarily want on a desktop system.
Well, they could be using the same kind of stuff on the inside, just having a different kind of UI.
However, those who are figuring out the Android market, I don't know where you sit on this, Jordan, but I think those who are figuring out the Android market are probably companies who are in a good place to understand how to sell software to Linux users. Or do you think that's not exactly the lateral transition we'd like to make it out to be?
I don't know.
I have a feeling that all of the Android stuff that's going on, it's really sort of being obscured from the end user that it's actually Linux. So
no, that's the thing. The end user does not associate Android with Linux and Linux with Android.